Hello, Psychonauts and Cosmic Thoughts. It's Rolling Zaloon, and I just recently finished a dope piece from one of my longtime friends, Ted. And I thought I'd retell one of my favorite stories of his while taking you through the process I went on in making the piece. I think it turned out really awesome, and he really enjoyed it. So without further ado, let's get sketching.
I need to shine some light onto who Ted is to me. Now, this is the man who introduced my mother to my father, so he is a large part of the reason why I am here today. And as such, he's very special to me. And Ted's my absolute guru in life, right? He's now in his 60s, but he's partied harder than pretty much anybody I know. And to be fair, he's still going strong today. Originally, he's from Edmonton, which is a fairly small town in Canada, right? Now, the story he tells is actually about one of his friends in high school, but I can assure you that Ted has many of his own stories, and maybe one day you'll get to hear some of them. Anyways, one of his friends, and I'll call him Mark, right, for namesake, ends up having a bit of a thing with one of the teachers at his high school. Ooh, very promiscuous, right? Now, these two are getting it on and doing things, they probably almost certainly shouldn't be doing. But that's part of the fun, right? And anyways, after a few months, Mark ends up getting a bit bored of one of the teachers. Of the teacher, not one of the teachers, of the teacher, right? And after some time, starts up a bit of a thing with someone his own age, right? A little more reasonable. And so one night over the weekend, he and this girl are driving around, and Mark says, "I want to show you something," to the girl, right? And, she's interested, and you're like, all right. And he starts driving in the direction of the school. And they show up at school, and now she's curious, right? It's the weekend, nobody's around. And they stop. Mark leads her to the front of the school. And now keep in mind, this is a small town about 40 years ago or so, right? There were no video cameras at the time. And it's a small town, yeah. But Mark pulls out some keys, which she didn't really know that he'd gotten them from another teacher. But he unlocks the front of the school. And the girl is impressed, right? And they head on in, right? And as they walk around the pretty much empty school, Mark stops at the teacher's lounge and unlocks the door, right? Access to the teacher's lounge. Ooh. Once they're inside, he hops on the island in the middle of the room and pushes one of the panels on the roof, then pulls down a bong and some weed, right? In the teacher's lounge, of all places, right? And he says the look on the girl's face was priceless, right? She's just flabbergasted, right? And so they start getting it on, and the two high schoolers, see what I did there, are in love, they do what they do. Everything is coming off, right? They're getting into it, and it's hot, and it's sweaty, and blah, 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 blah. And they get so into it, in fact, that they end up rolling out of the teacher's lounge and into the hallway, right? So it goes on, and eventually, they finish, and they get back up, and they're out of breath, and they're like, they didn't end up realizing that in the heat of the moment, they accidentally closed the door, which locked automatically. That meant that sitting in the teacher's lounge was a pile of their clothes with his wallet and ID, his keys, as well as a bong and some weed. Not the best situation. And so, see, like I said, this was a long time ago. The laws around marijuana, even in Canada, were pretty strict and unforgiving. So very quickly, both of them started to freak out. And now, this is the point in the story that Ted points out to me, the moral. And that would be that there is a way out of every situation if you're smart enough. So the girl is freaking out, and Mark is trying to calm her down and think of a way out of this, right? And then suddenly, he thinks about the air vents, right? And he realizes that the girls' locker room is right next to the teacher's lounge, right? So they walk over and head into the girls' locker room, and he hops on some of the lockers and finds an air duct he's able to climb into, right? An open air duct. And so once he starts heading in the direction of the teacher's lounge, in the dark and surrounded by insulation. Now, if you're unaware, it's the pink cotton candy shit you sometimes see in buildings, right? And so he's crawling around butt naked in the dark trying to find the lounge. And then finally he does, right? Mark drops down quickly. He unlocks the door, the girl and him grab their stuff and fucking bolt, right? They're out of there, right? Left it exactly the way it was. So like I said, there's always a way out of the situation. But here's the thing. Insulation is made out of fiberglass, which is essentially millions of tiny plastic spikes all glued together. And so when he was crawling around, it was like climbing through a cactus in his birthday suit. And the next day he wakes up and his body is as red as a tomato and very, very itchy, right? Like unbearably itchy. Everything is on fire. He's just like the maximum amount of discomfort. And Ted says for 3 weeks it did not go away. But none of the teachers ever found out, and so, I don't know, it's up to you, but he said it'd be worth it in the end. He definitely wasn't able to use his Johnson for those 3 weeks. And just like that, the story ends. I hope you enjoyed and you're having a lovely day. Salutations.